So if War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron are what happens when Transformers is given to an extremely talented Western developer, then what happens if Transformers was given undiluted in its purest form to an extremely talented Japanese developer? Not only that, but what if it was one of the most notoriously eccentric and over-the-top creators in the industry? At last, we have arrived at the final game I intend to cover before I consider this retrospective to be complete, at least for now. There's other games I need to cover, such as the Transformers animated game on the DS, the Transformers Prime game on the Wii, the War for Cybertron rail shooter, and all those DS movie games, which I now luckily own most of, so we're on the right track. I just need time to actually play them and experience them and develop my thoughts instead of rushing through them just to make a quick video. In 2015, a mere year after Darkspark, and with Fall of Cybertron still feeling fairly recent and relevant, we got Transformers Devastation, an entirely standalone G1 faithful character action game made by Platinum Games. This is the final game under the Hasbro Activision publishing agreement, which means, along with the other titles we've covered, this game was unceremoniously delisted from online stores. It can no longer be legally purchased digitally anymore. The game was released cross-generation on both the Xbox 360 and PS3, as well as the Xbox One and PS4, and both generations are highly optimized for their respective console, meaning their performance is virtually identical across all four versions. Smooth frame rate, 60 FPS, and virtually the same graphics. So I originally played this game for the first time back in 2015 on this Xbox 360 copy, and again, this version is fine. I do recommend playing it on the 7th gen consoles if you don't have an 8th gen, or if you find the 7th gen copies easier to find. And I got a loose disc PS4 copy for the purposes of this video. It's stuck in the Darkspark case here. I don't have a full case for it. But while I was working part-time at a secondhand game store between jobs around 2022, I picked up this Xbox One copy that got traded in just in case. So now I've got 3 different copies of this, and originally I wanted another copy just because, as you may remember from earlier in the series, I didn't consider the Xbox 360 to be a console I could record off of because I had a failure with the power supply. And so I was shifting my collection to the PS3 for the other videos. And so I got these copies, and then of course the Xbox 360 ended up working again. But yeah, I've got 3 copies of the game now, and I wonder if anyone would notice if I just randomly switched which console the footage is coming from, just to fuck with people. Since this is the finale of this series, I do owe many thanks to all of the numerous Transformers fans that have showed their support over the course of this series. Cannot thank you guys enough. But I think I need to provide special appreciation for one of the channel's most loyal supporters, fellow Transformers content creator, Flashing Blades. And we decided for this video that it was time for Worlds to collide.
Hi everyone, I'm Blade Cross EXE, lifelong Transformers fan and a friend of CJ's. I'm part of the Flashing Blades YouTube channel, where we do videos covering anime, games, manga, and more. I plan to post my own series of Transformers game reviews, and Devastation is on my list as well. Make sure you subscribe to Star-Crossed Souls, and if you have time, we'd love to hear from you over on our channel as well. But for now, enjoy the video.
He and I sat down together at Comic-Con in February of 2025 to do sort of a panel interview discussion about the game, the full video of which will be available on my new livestream archive channel, link in the description. But I'll be using various clips from our discussion throughout this video's explanation. Let's talk about character action games. This distinction may seem arbitrary considering there are so many different kinds of games where you walk around an environment, jump, beat up enemies, and control a third-person over-the-shoulder camera. In a similar vein to subgenres like roguelike, Metroidvania, or immersive sim, this is a colloquial term that refers to a set of design and gameplay traits that we agree by consensus puts the game into a particular category. There's many of these. There's mascot platformers, action-adventure, action RPG, Muso, Souls-like. Character action in this context refers to design traits of games like Devil May Cry and Ninja Gaiden. They often focus on difficult, intense combat with a heavy emphasis on combos. I've said before in other videos that these types of games exist on a spectrum, with Muso games on one end, where every swing of your sword is an unstoppable hurricane that takes out dozens of enemies at once, and Souls-like games on the other end, where inputs need to be incredibly strategic and minor mistakes are heavily punished. Character action games sit right in the middle. There's still this power fantasy of controlling a very powerful character that can do larger-than-life things like air juggle enemies that can still take a massive beating. But in spite of the power fantasy, these games are notorious for being quite difficult and skill testing. Transformers Devastation comes to us from Platinum Games, who are basically the fathers of the genre. They have single-handedly contributed as much to the existence of the character action genre as we know it, as Koei has for Musou and FromSoft has for Souls-like.
With Clover Studios, they were a Capcom-owned studio, and this was where a lot of the passion projects for Hideki Kamiya came out of. So you have
Devil May Cry.
Yeah, he's the original creator of Devil May Cry, but Clover Studios, their first series was Beautiful Joe.
Yes.
And Beautiful Joe is very much this love letter to tokusatsu and to also comic book style. Those games are really novel. I remember the 5 out of 5s and the high rating scores that Beautiful Joe got back in the day, and they are this pseudo 2D, pseudo 3D side-scrolling beat 'em ups, and they're really well done. And the bullet time, the speed up and slow down effects, really well done. So after Beautiful Joe, we got Okami.
Yes.
And Okami is one of my favorite games of all time. This is actually a passion project for Hideki Kamiya. He was the director of it. It is this Zelda clone, basically, that is based off of the Japanese Shinto mythos. So you play as a god that has taken this spirit body form of a dog, of a wolf actually, and you go around and collect all the god powers from all the other. And there's this calligraphy element where you can take out your brush and draw on the screen and use your powers in that way.
Yes.
Beautiful visuals. Beautiful music, a good story. And then we have a game called God Hand, which I do own but I haven't played very much of. But God Hand is this very absurd, silly 3D beat 'em up on the PS2.
Yes.
And it has a very niche cult following. And I don't really know that much about it, but after that game, Clover Studios was shut down and they sort of were reborn as Platinum Games. And Platinum Games was owned by Sega, and they did not have necessarily the platform loyalty that Clover Studios did, because most of the Clover Studios games were PS2.
Right.
Whereas the Platinum Games got a chance at other consoles. So they made a game called Mad World, which I don't really know much of anything about. I haven't played it. And then they made Bayonetta.
Yes.
And Bayonetta is where we really get the Platinum Games style of character action games, and a lot of the elements we would later see in TF Devastation.
And because we have a lot of people who worked on Devil May Cry also working on Bayonetta, that's why there's often crossover in fan art and things of that nature with the two games, in addition to just the similar tone of the games in terms of setting and world building and so on.
Yep, they're almost these mirror parallels of each other, and I would love there to be a crossover of the two games as well.
Outside of Death Battle.
Yeah, and Bayonetta is an awesome game. I've only played it to completion one time, and like most character action games, it is one of those where the more times you play it, the more proficient you get at it, and so your third or fourth time playing it is going to be much different than your first kind of thing. Shortly after Bayonetta, we got a game called Vanquish, and this is one of my favorite games of all time. This game is in my top 20, top 15.
I've heard you toss the name around a few times, but we haven't talked in depth about it before.
So Vanquish is this character action game that is a hybrid of the 7th gen third person cover shooter style game like Gears of War.
Right.
But it's very deceptive in that regard, because if you start playing it like a third person cover shooter, you are missing a lot of the mechanics. You want to be oh, I'm going to stay behind cover and that kind of thing, but really there's all kinds of flips and tricks and min-maxing your bullet time and stuff like that to do all kinds of crazy stunts. And so it's absolutely one of those games that rewards multiple playthroughs, and the more you play it, get more proficient at it, the crazier it gets.
Yes.
And I absolutely love this game. It's bonkers and over the top. It is also this is the love child of Shinji Mikami, who was the director of Resident Evil 4, and later went on to make to create Tango Gameworks, where we got The Evil Within and The Evil Within 2, and then later Hi-Fi Rush. Before we got Metal Gear Rising, we got a game called Anarchy Reigns. And I haven't played that one either, but it's on my list because I do love Platinum games, so I would like to have the majority of the games they made, at least the better ones.
Yes.
And I have heard good things about that one, but I admittedly do not know that much about it. But then we have Metal Gear Rising, which is a game that I still cannot believe to this day even exists, if you want to talk about that a little bit.
I gotta say, I think I enjoy it more than I probably would enjoy any of the other Metal Gear games from a gameplay standpoint, because I hate stealth. Stealth is always optional if there's no survivors. And this is, while I always describe this game as a hack and slash, it's not like a Musou game where you're just absurdly overpowered in the immediate combat. You can get blitzed and just get bopped by regular grunt enemies if you're not careful. So while you do have the power fantasy of running around, swinging a sword, taking out, or just hitting massive hordes of enemies, you don't always stagger them, and they can gang up on you and just flatten you if you're not careful with it.
I do know that Metal Gear Rising has the political and social commentary that the other games do, because
aged like a fine wine.
Absolutely, and it is one of those things where, you know, Kojima did write it, so it is still his same, even though it's a spin-off game in the series.
Yes,
it is very much his same values and his same sensibilities and his same opinions and beliefs and sense of humor even too. So
yes.
Then there was a little bit of a dip where, not including TF's Devastation, there was a little bit of a dip where Platinum Games made a couple of other licensed games that weren't received very well. They made a TMNT game and a Legend of Korra game, and neither of those were received very well at all. Then we had, after that, a Square Enix published Platinum Games game with Nier Automata. And this game is, I don't want to go too deep into this one because it's an absolute rabbit hole, but as unhinged of a like weird auteur that Hideo Kojima is, Yoko Taro is even worse. Because Hideo Kojima will put crazy stuff in games like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if if the player has to unplug their controller and put it into the second controller port to beat the boss, or if they have to read the codec number for the character they have to call on the back of the game case. Like, he'll put stuff like that in there. But then Yoko Taro will put stuff in his games like, hey, what if one of the endings of the game requires you to delete your save file?
Does it come back later? Like,
no.
How do you...
You have to start the other endings from scratch. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Multiple of his games he did this.
Oh, no.
And so the interesting thing about Yoko Taro's games is like the narrative and the story around them is often more interesting than the game itself. And so like most of the Drakengard games, I own all of them. I cannot genuinely recommend anybody actually play those games. But Nier, the first Nier, is genuinely great, and Nier Automata is also genuinely great, but the stories are very different. Like, almost nothing of the story, to my knowledge at least, really carries over and really matters that much in Automata.
Right.
But Automata has the best gameplay of any Yoko Taro game by a huge margin because it was Platinum Games. The cultural impact of that game was very significant. Obviously, like, 2B and 9S are very recognizable, iconic action game characters now, and Nier Automata's provenance kind of resulted in this retroactive interest in the rest of Yoko Taro's work, and so I appreciate it for that. Then we have the downturn of Platinum Games. So they worked on with Square Enix for another title. Babylon's Fall is what they made, and this was a huge flop for Square Enix and for Platinum Games, and it lost them a bunch of money. And so after that flop, Hideki Kamiya left Platinum Games and is now trying to recreate Clover Studios with Clover's Studio, plural, and is making the Okami sequel. So let's talk about Transformers Devastation. One of the things that I love about this game is just kind of, like I said, the love and reverence for G1 that it has. It was definitely made with love and care, and they're like really paying homage to the Transformers IP a lot. And even though it was made by a Japanese studio, it does have a lot of Western or American like influence and creatives that worked on it.
Yes.
The writer for the game is Andy Schmidt, who was a prolific writer for the IDW comics in the 2000s. So you already tell that, like, as far as the story for TF Devastation goes, it has the right person you could trust with writing an original Transformers story set in the G1 continuity.
Yes.
You're giving it and putting it in good hands.
As far as the overall story goes, I agree with your sentiment on things, that it feels like an episode straight out of the original G1 cartoon with how just off the wall crazy it gets in such a short amount of time. That's the base story, like the immediate conflict of what's going on right now. The deeper lore of the game, as far as it gets, that actually does definitely feel like IDW, because we bring in some characters like Nova Prime who were never in the cartoon, but he was a prominent figure in the IDW comics, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So that's where I see the crossover right there already. It's like, on the surface, it's like an episode of the cartoon. Dig a bit deeper, it's like the comics.
Yeah.
So we get that nice little blending right there, and they play off each other very well.
Yep. The game is directed by Kenji Saito, who has been with Platinum Games since the Clover days. He was a lead designer in the Beautiful Joe series and was the director of Metal Gear Rising.
Yes, and I absolutely see that, because I actually played Metal Gear Rising in preparation for this. I absolutely see a lot of the same skeleton from Metal Gear Rising put in Transformers, because some of the animations are ripped straight from Metal Gear Rising.
Yeah.
Especially when you get the characters that dual wield swords. It's exactly Sundowner during phase 1 when he's dual wielding. You see like the exact same movements. I remember picked up Sideswipe the first time because his default is the dual wielding, and I was like, wait a minute, I've seen this before.
The voice performers as well. There's many different G1 performers that came back. So obviously you have your Peter Cullen as Prime and your Frank Welker as Megatron. But even outside of that, you
Sideswipe came back, the original actor that played him.
And so did some of the Constructicons.
Yes.
So, what about the gameplay? This game is, it's pretty rad. The blood of Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, and Metal Gear Rising flows through this game. When it comes to the controls, you can pretty much throw out anything you've learned from any of the previous games we've covered, as this game plays nothing like any of them. We have a light attack combo with square or X, and a heavy attack combo with triangle or Y, which is pretty standard for character action games. We can also pick up and throw objects like cars with circle or B, which isn't nearly as relevant of a feature as it was in the first movie game, so don't worry about that. We have a dodge roll with R1 or the right bumper, which if done with perfect timing can initiate a slow motion power equivalent to Bayonetta's Witch Time. You can also hold that shoulder button down to transform, and the way your transformation is implemented is very interesting in this game. You do sort of use it for mobility, but traveling across terrain in this game is done in a very particular kind of silly way, and the handling and feel of the alt modes really feels catered to that style of gameplay. When you get up to speed in your alt mode, you can do a transformation attack called a rush attack into an enemy, which can launch them into the air and break their shields. You're going to be using this a lot since it's one of the only ways to damage shielded enemies, and it's a great way to get a combo started on a slower, larger target. When you've hit an enemy enough times with a melee attack in succession, you get a prompt for a transformation attack that uses your alt mode, and you definitely want to use this as much as possible because it deals a lot of damage, has iframes, and hones in on enemies. You have ranged weapons too, of course, but this is no third-person shooter. Now, the guns deal a lot more damage than the ones in Devil May Cry or Bayonetta do, and can come in handy for dealing some quick damage in a pinch to finish off a boss, but they're mainly used for hard-to-hit enemies from a distance, and they can run out of ammo quite quickly if you're too trigger-happy. Again, the mindset you need to adapt is much closer to this game's Platinum contemporaries than to a shooter, and if you rely too heavily on the guns, you won't be learning many of the game's key combat lessons it's trying to teach you in melee encounters. Quick aside about the game's difficulty. To address the elephant in the room, there are some die-hard character action game fans that like to dismiss this game as being too easy, and some that go so far as to say that the Witch Time that Bayonetta implemented was a step backwards for the genre in general, and only the games that don't have a built-in dodge function are challenging at all. I'm gonna call that for what it is and say this attitude is just elitist gatekeeping. This game can be quite challenging and does have 3 difficulty levels available to choose from at the start, with an additional 2 even harder unlockable difficulties. But expecting someone who hasn't played this game before or is unfamiliar with the genre to be able to breeze through this game because it's technically easier than Ninja Gaiden, for example, is just elitist bullshit. I fully expect the average casual player to get stuck on a few bosses that will kill them about 5 or 6 times before they can clear it. It's only natural. I personally find the game's difficulty to be perfect balance of stimulating challenge without being brutally unfair. You feel an enormous amount of satisfaction out of beating some of the tougher bosses without feeling cheated.
Platinum Games usually strikes a perfect balance when it comes to accessibility and difficulty. Most of the hardest modes are only accessible after you've cleared the game at least once before. Some examples of this are Vanquish's God Hard mode and Very Hard in Metal Gear Rising, followed by Revengeance mode after you've cleared that one. Transformers Devastation repeats this with Magnus difficulty, and then finally, Prime difficulty. So there's zero expectation for the player to try hard this game and brute force it on the hardest difficulty on their first try. They expect you to have already played each difficulty one by one before you're ready for that level of challenge.
I'm actually planning an entire video about video game difficulty and how we talk about it as an expression of video game culture, so I'll save some of this discussion for that. Our story scenario feels like something straight out of an episode of the G1 cartoon. The Decepticons are attacking an unnamed human city with giant claw machines. They've discovered an ancient Cybertronian ship buried under the city, and Insecticons have started pouring out of it. Megatron comments on wanting to tame ancient plasma energy. He asks the Constructicons to build him a perimeter, and they start looking for a way to access what's buried beneath. The Autobots arrive just in time to save the day, but a building collapses from the attack on the city, causing Optimus to get separated from the others and for gameplay to begin. Our first encounter is against some regular warrior-class ground soldiers, which allows us to learn the basics of our light and heavy attack combos, and some Seekers, which teaches us how to use our ranged weapons. The way the levels are structured is very similar to the game's character action contemporaries. Like in Devil May Cry or Bayonetta, levels are linear, yet not hand-holdy. When you encounter a group of enemies, the game usually traps you in an encounter to fight them, unless you're backtracking through an area. You pick up health and currency from downed enemies, and there's also treasure off the beaten path. The gates that you have to combo your way through are definitely ripped right out of Devil May Cry. The city is sort of a hub world that you get to interact with certain sections of over the course of the first few chapters. It's not open-ended, but it does allow you to go off the beaten path as you would like to take on a few vehicle mode puzzles and other obstacles to gather items. The game teaches us about the Bayonetta witch time we get from perfect dodges, and the fact that our vehicle mode can do a charged transformation attack called a rush attack that launches enemies into the air. Prime's ability is a trailer tail swing on a cooldown, which is actually quite powerful and can hit multiple enemies at once. Next up, the Decepticons sink Devastator on us already. I guess he is the namesake of the game after all. Bring it on, we can take him. The thing about the fights against the Combiners in this game is they are a major torture test for whether or not you become proficient at dodging enemy attacks. They're usually slow, tanky, easy to hit, but their physical attacks can take out huge chunks of your health. Depending on which character you're playing as, later Devastator fights can hit you for up to 2/3 of your max health in one hit. We just try to wail on him with our light attacks as fast as possible, and trigger as many of our alt mode attacks as we can. We get him down to low health before taking a major hit, and we finish him off with Prime's Ion Blaster with a sliver of health left. Told you the ranged weapons should be saved for a pinch. The rest of the Autobots reunite with their leader, and now we gain control of Bumblebee. Bumblebee is actually my favorite character to control in this game, and I also think he's one of the most efficient in combat, at least for my playstyle due to how fast and agile he is. He's also able to chain 2 vehicle mode attacks together in a row and stun lock lots of tougher enemies and combos. His main weakness, of course, being his low resistance to damage. Like, I cannot overstate how much more efficient in combat Bumblebee ends up being compared to the slow characters. A perfect illustration of this is when we catch up to Megatron and have a brief boss fight against him, which serves as our tutorial for the rush attack. Bumblebee's attacks basically keep him stun locked the entire time and barely give him a chance to recover after we break his shield. Megatron retreats to this large tower structure that's appeared in the city. Next we take control of Sideswipe, who starts with some pretty cool weapons. Twin swords, a flamethrower, and a rocket launcher. The character models in this game are interesting. They try to be as G1 accurate as possible while taking references from some other modern analogs, like certain toy lines that offer more detail than the G1 cartoon ever would. Bumblebee and Sideswipe have copyright-safe, royalty-free versions of their original alt modes, being reminiscent of the Volkswagen Beetle and Lamborghini Countach, but clearly not the same. The first encounter with Sideswipe introduces us to the ground soldier Sergeant, who's faster and tougher than the ones we fought before. But even though Sideswipe is slower than some of the other characters, he has a nice dash ability that lets us close the distance between us and the enemies. His ultimate attack is a barrage of rockets from his shoulder cannon. We catch up to Megatron again, and he remarks that it seems like the tower structure is having some kind of influence on the Insecticons. He then leaves on the back of one of the Constructicons, and we have to chase him on this elevated highway section. I remember this being a bit of a pain in the ass the first time I played the game, but this time around I catch up to him pretty easily using the nearby speed boosters, and I get him knocked down and defeat him pretty easily. It's hard to even notice this or appreciate it, but Megatron's tank mode in this game is directly modeled after the Leader Class Combiner Wars toy, most likely because there was technically no G1 analog for Megatron being a tank, since he never was, but unfortunately he's stuck being one now for good. We corner Megatron at the end of the road, and he forces us into a boss fight with a force field around us. The gimmick with this fight is he's trying to push us backwards into the force field with his weapon, and we have to use the speed booster rings in the arena to push through that and break through his shield with a rush attack. From there, it's trying to get him stun locked with your melee attacks and alt mode attacks, which is easier said than done with Sideswipe's general lack of speed. I've heard people say this fight took them several tries and was really difficult, but on this go around I beat him first try with minimal effort. The only really challenging part is preserving your health when he's attacking you in his tank mode. Megatron retreats into an elevator which takes him underground into whatever ancient Cybertronian ship has been discovered beneath the surface. So naturally we're going to have to find a way to follow him to see what he's up to. From here we need to explore the city and deactivate the security grid that Megatron has activated around the elevator. Now the game finally decides to take the gloves off and let us explore with our own setup. We can return to the Ark and change our characters as we wish, and adjust our loadout. There's lots of room for experimentations with different weapons and weapon upgrades, and even though I feel like I engage with this mechanic a lot more on this playthrough, I still feel like I've barely scratched the surface of this mechanic, and I know some hardcore players, speedrunners, and people that play this game religiously have found all kinds of strategies for optimization and exploitation using upgraded weapons. But for the sake of this video, we're mainly going to be showing off what is accessible to a brand new first-time save file throughout the campaign. I equipped Bumblebee with a flame sword and a cryo shotgun, which sounds awesome. I will show off Wheeljack and Grimlock soon enough, but for now I'm switching back over to Bumblebee for efficiency, as the next section is going to require us to fight the Constructicons 2 at a time. First up is Hook and Scrapper, and this fight can be challenging. Hook's hook can just kind of hit you for no reason and it stuns you, so you can easily take a lot of damage off of that. You really gotta lock in and pile on the damage to get at least one of them incapacitated. I take my first death here, and whoa, holy shit, repair kit. Let's fucking go. Get his ass, Badassatron, or whatever you want to be called. At this point, when traveling through the city hub, I start mostly ignoring the optional enemy encounters and other stuff and just head straight for the next objective. I doubt everyone plays it like this, but I distinctly remember my first playthrough getting caught up in the little moments of exploration and the obstacles in the city hub, and not making nearly as much progress in the game per play session as I could have. The next pair of Constructicons we encounter is Scavenger and Bone Crusher.
Gotcha.
Just like that, the second generator is deactivated. We end up on the shore by the bridge and encounter the final two Constructicons, Longhaul and Mixmaster. When I deliver the final blow to Mixmaster, Longhaul gets a cheap shot at me with his alt mode, and I nearly take a death, but I'm able to get him out with a sliver of health left using the cryo shotgun, and we complete our objective. We return to the area where Megatron went down that underground elevator, but the Constructicons try one more time to stop us. Naturally, the only thing left for them to do is to try to combine and form Devastator. This fight is pretty much the same as the previous one, but slightly harder. He has various melee attacks, a ground pound, he can punch the ground and cause a chunk of the earth to become raised up. This will allow you to attack his torso rather than just his legs, but it also allows him to try to shoot you with his giant blaster. His attacks take out entire thirds of my health, leaving me with a tiny sliver left, but I managed to knock him down to about half health, which causes him to deploy his drill weapons. Now his melee attacks are a lot more aggressive. I had one more repair kit in my inventory, so I still haven't game overed yet. I haven't even been keeping track of when and where I pick those up or how many I have, so it's a genuine surprise whenever I get reactivated and rise back up again. Bumblebee's ultimate is a series of bombs he tosses out, which deals decent damage, but the AoE is unreliable. Not nearly as much of a nuke as Prime's ultimate. With a tiny sliver of health left, once again we finish off Devastator. And with that, we are finally at the end of Chapter 1. Good lord, that was a lot. 17 individual mini-missions. The rest of the chapters won't be quite so dense, but man, what a hell of a way to start this game. Guns blazing, totally over-the-top insanity, right from second zero. Megatron reveals that the underground Cybertronian machine is a ship that Optimus is all too familiar with called the Proud Star. Next we get to play as Wheeljack, who is fine overall, just a little too slow for my taste, so I'll only be playing as him for this section. His rush attack in his alt mode fires rockets, which is nice. There's a sentry bot gatekeeping our access to the entrance to the Proud Star, so we end up in a vehicle mode chase sequence to destroy it, where Wheeljack's rockets make short work of it thanks to their lock-on. Right on cue, as we return to the ship's entrance, the Insecticons start pouring out of it, and we're introduced to these as new types of enemies. They're basically infinite clones of Scrapnel, Kickback, and Bombshell for us to fight whenever we encounter the Insecticons.
Autobots, welcome to the Proud Star, the great ship of Nova Prime.
It can't be! You mean an Autobot ship is responsible for all the destruction in the city?
It appears so, Wheeljack. But I doubt it was an Autobot hand that caused the destruction.
Another Cybertronian ship crashed on Earth? What are the odds?
Nova Prime's mission was to preserve our culture. The Colonnade of Cybertron was a covenant between all Cybertronians. The Colonnade is comprised of the essential aspects of our lost Cybertronian heritage, and it was placed inside the Ferrotaxis, the supercomputer that controls the Proud Star. The Ferrotaxis literally carries our culture inside of it.
What an historical find that would be. So much art and beauty and history has been lost. To find it again.
The Ferrotaxis controls both the Plasma Core and the Insecticons. It directs the power and gives the Insecticons their function and purpose.
Okay, so we find the Ferrotaxis and what? Destroy it? It's got so much of our culture in it. We can't do that, can we?
No, we can't! We find the Plasma Core and shut it down. Shutting down the power is the most surefire way to stop the cyberforming.
Then we locate the Ferrotaxis and preserve our culture, as Nova Prime intended. But for now, stay focused. There are more floors to this ship. We split up and locate the Plasma Core.
And with that, this game's plot and what we're fighting for has been fully established. And I like this plot a lot. It's not too bland and not too complicated either. I take this opportunity once we're on the Proud Star to switch off of Wheeljack, because we have some tough fights coming up and he's sadly just too slow for my playstyle, as much as it is fun to play as him, and it's the first game in this retrospective we've been able to do so. There's no right or wrong character to pick in this game, and I'm sure all of them are good if you consistently practice with the same one. But for me, most of the gameplay you're going to be seeing is just going to be Prime and Bumblebee, purely for efficiency. We equip Prime with a cluster bomb launcher and the cryo shotgun, and get ready for a boss fight against Soundwave. Now this is where the boss fights start to become extremely dynamic and layered. Soundwave has a variety of unique tricks, including a blast that pushes you backwards, the ability to raise and lower the platforms you're standing on to create walls between you and him, and of course the cassette bots, which you'll need to deal with before you can focus on Soundwave himself. But luckily in this first fight against him, you only need to knock out about half of his health before the game lets you progress. Next up is a sequence on a moving platform with the Insecticons coming in swarms behind you, but luckily there's a conveniently placed turret to help you fend them off. This sequence is extremely reminiscent of a similar set piece in Vanquish with a moving tram and various gun turrets placed on it. I'm going to assume that this was intentional. Next up we have a boss fight on the platform against a giant version of Scrapnel. And finally, at long last, my win streak is over. The walls of the game's difficulty enclosed around me, and I take my first death. And my second. And my third. This boss was a pain in the ass on this run. If you fall off the platform, it's not certain death, but you do take a lot of damage. In his robot mode, when you dodge in and go for a melee combo, you'll be lucky to get about 2 or 3 hits on him before he counters you. His physical attack combo includes a kick which launches you, does a ton of damage, and his attacks are hard to dodge. After several tries, I managed to get a very lucky run, and I preserved some of my cluster bombs for the right moment and blew him right out of the sky at the last minute. Next up is another hard fight against a giant version of Bombshell. A lot of the same rules apply here. He's very tanky, has some hard to dodge melee attacks. Slow and steady wins the race here, preserving your HP is the way to go. He will spray acid on the arena, which can be difficult to navigate around, and where the platforms continue to rise and fall like in the Soundwave fight. I remembered to make liberal use of Prime's trailer swing attack, and finally had a good run where I knocked him down. Teletran Alpha, the computer AI inside the Proud Star, gives us a chilling prediction of Optimus Prime's fate. It seems to be referencing the G1 movie, and not just the events of the game itself. It's sad and also kind of badass to think that Prime knew he was going to have to make a sacrifice at some point in order to end this conflict. Given the opportunity, I decided to switch back to Bumblebee for the next fight, and boy was that the correct move. Kickback didn't even know what hit him. What's wild is next the other 2 Insecticons come in to join, but with a lower total HP, and I had to fight all 3 of them at the same time with a tiny health bar, and managed to defeat them all in the first try. Next, we quickly destroy the shielding around the plasma core before the Insecticons swarm us, and Chapter 2 comes to an end.
What's the plan, Optimus?
For the time being, the cyberforming has slowed. But Megatron will undoubtedly go after the plasma core to start it again.
And it sprung a leak before it ejected. Even if Megatron never gets it, we still have to shut it down.
We should scan for Deceptor creep activity. That plasma core eject button wasn't targeted. Megatron's gonna need someone to go pick it up.
Split up and find a Decepticon.
Chapter 3 starts us off playing as Grimlock, so now every playable character is available. The plasma core was ejected from the Proud Star and landed somewhere in the city, so it's a mad dash to try to find it before the Decepticons do. We run into Thundercracker and decide to chase him down to see if we can use him to locate the plasma core. We try to chase him down in Grimlock's Dino mode, which as you might expect, controls nothing like the other alt modes do in the game, his flamethrower dealing massive damage to Thundercracker. I don't know if I love the way that Grimlock controls. Like I said, I'm sure I could get used to it if I played as him enough times, but trying to learn his unique alt mode moves in a more challenging mission would probably halt my progress for quite a bit. We catch up to Thundercracker and manage to beat him, but the game actually soft locks on me briefly, forcing me to reload my save. This was the only major glitch or bug I had in my entire run, but I've never had that happen before or since.
Today is a good day to join our cause, Thundercracker.
My loyalty only goes so far. Tampering with plasma energy? That's madness.
Wow, that took like no convincing at all. No wonder they call you Thunder Cracker.
Very funny, Pipsqueak. No one should have that thing. You want to get it, that's fine. So long as you promise to get rid of it.
I think we can handle that.
It's on the island. Megatron sent Blitzwing after it. You're closer, so you might be able to beat him there.
I know the island. Only way onto it is across Liberty Bridge.
Sounds like fun.
When we get to the bridge, we encounter a new enemy type, the Heavy Weapons Ground Soldier, who I'll most likely just be referring to as Heavies from here on out. Dodging their attacks is pretty challenging because there's a slight delay in the timing of their hammer swings, and as expected, they can take quite a beating. Grimlock is a pretty good match against them, but I still prefer faster characters. I switch back over to Bumblebee, and we try to cross over the bridge to find the plasma core. We can't get through the barrier, so we go in search of some unstable energon cubes we identified earlier to see if we can blow our way through. Starscream is waiting for us at the bridge. Mission objective: teach Starscream he is no match for the Autobots. Perfect, I love it. Starscream boss fights have been a staple of some of the other games, and this one doesn't disappoint. He's not terribly hard, but he is agile and hard to hit, spending a lot of his time in the air as expected. I know they didn't make him easy on purpose as a joke, but like, what do you expect the guy to do when he's being air juggled like this? Next is chasing Blitzwing across the bridge, and in doing so the game forces us into a side-scrolling shooter sequence similar to games like Gradius, Thunder Force, or Fantasy Zone. This is apparently a Platinum Games inside joke, where they try to recreate this sequence in as many games as they can, but I'm unsure if it's a specific space shooter they're referencing when they do this. Okami had the side-scrolling digging game, there's side-scrolling sequences in Bayonetta, and there's the extremely in-your-face reference in Nier Automata. Next is a proper boss fight against Blitzwing, and it rocks. It's not too hard, I beat him as Bumblebee on the first try, but he does have a different set of attack patterns to keep you on your toes with each of his 3 modes. His charge attack in jet mode can freeze you, and his tank mode can set you on fire, causing you to have to shake off the flames with the analog sticks. We're in dire need of a decent ranged weapon for Bumblebee at this point, since after we empty our twin blasters against him, we don't really have much else that deals damage. Starscream yoinks the core away from us at the last second, and that's a wrap for Chapter 3.
What's wrong with it?
We were unable to repair the leak before Starscream took it.
Meaning?
Detonation imminent.
Can it be repaired?
Accessing Teletron Alpha.
The Proud Star's plasma core was forged in the plasma energy chambers on Cybertron. Only at plasma energy interface on Cybertron can it be repaired.
Starscream, you must bring it to the tower immediately. The core is unstable.
Unstable? Oh, you don't say.
Now it's time to go back across the bridge after Starscream. I attempt to switch over to Sideswipe for this part and encounter the Elite Seeker enemies. These guys are extremely aggressive with their physical attacks, coming at you with their own pair of twin swords, plus all the same mobility as the existing Seekers. It's at this point I wanted to talk about a strategy with ranged weapons I've been using all game, but it starts being most useful after I equip Sideswipe with a sniper rifle. When you use the left trigger to aim down sights, there's a slight soft lock-on where the camera automatically centers in on an enemy you're looking at. So you can use this to quickly sight in on an enemy and fire off a shot, hitting them instantly. It's essentially the same thing as what they call quick scoping in Call of Duty, and lots of shooters use a similar mechanic. It's better than trying to meticulously line up a shot and sacrificing your mobility in the process. I try my best to make it across the bridge with Sideswipe just for the sake of variety for this video, but I swear his sword swings are so slow that regular ground soldiers can hit you in between your hits and your combo. He's just not equipped to deal with the large group of heavies that appear, plus the close corners with the shielded enemies, so once again I end up switching back over to Bumblebee after crafting an upgraded sniper rifle. These encounters are definitely a lot harder than they should be given the close corners on the bridge. It's very hard to find enough room to breathe, yet alone get enough space built up for a rush attack on these shielded guys. To no one's surprise, Starscream loses his grip on the plasma core, and Megatron has to send in Motormaster of the Stunticons to clean up the mess. Initially you're just supposed to beat him to the coordinates of the plasma core. I don't know if the game intends for you to simply race him and beat him there, but I decided to just kick the crap out of him so we don't have to race him at all. Similar to the objective earlier with Megatron, he doesn't really try to fight us back since all he's trying to do is get to the objective. After we get there, it's time for a proper boss fight against him, and like all the others, this one does not disappoint. He has an electrified sword which can send beams of energy out at you. He's pretty tough, and we take a few deaths against him as Bumblebee. Bumblebee unfortunately being too squishy and not quite hitting hard enough, so we decide it's time for Motormaster to pick on someone his own size and switch over to Prime. This seems fitting as Prime and Motormaster have a lot in common, both being semi-trucks, and sometimes sharing toy molds. Prime seems to have the perfect balance between speed and damage for this fight. Motormaster has a variety of dangerous ranged attacks with lightning bolts and little orbs he can send out at you, and while those are hazards, your close proximity to the orbs can sometimes let you trigger focus mode even when he's technically not attacking you. There's a great moment in this fight where I knock him backwards and he takes out a lamppost and a couple of trees in the process. Such satisfying feedback, it's just incredible. Yet another boss fight with an extremely cathartic end, taking him out with the cluster bomb launcher on low health. God, this is good. I do appreciate how the thunderstorm gets worse and worse, along with the further destruction of the city as the plot progresses and the stakes get higher. We find the plasma core in a crater, and it's damaged to a dangerous degree. So now we have to protect Wheeljack from oncoming enemies as he does his best to repair it. It's actually a surprisingly fun objective, and luckily Wheeljack's health regenerates, which helps tremendously. But as soon as we gain access to the plasma core, Motormaster shows back up with the rest of the Stunticons. And you know what that means. We have to fight Menasor in this game too? What a badass surprise. This was definitely not in any of the marketing or advertising. Menasor, as you might expect, is similar to Devastator, huge, powerful attacks that take up big chunks of your health, but are telegraphed and have a wide area of effect. He did the thing, the meme with the sword. Apparently this is one of the biggest inside jokes in mecha and super robot shows, and just anime in general at large. It's shocking how prolific this reference is. You might trip over it by accident in a franchise you're not expecting to see it in. It's called Brave Perspective, apparently, named after Brave X Kaiser, the show it debuted in, and I got quite a laugh seeing it in this game. He thinks spinning up a tornado will help him, but if anything it just brings me closer to his torso we can attack him. We technically beat him on the first try, but admittedly did have to use a repair kit.
No one defeats Menasor! Must complete mission!
I did not see that coming.
Oh, Starscream! You survived. Everyone into the space bridge! To Cybertron! Except you, Starscream. You stay here and burden the Autobots with your incompetence!
Laugh while you can, Megatron! But I will laugh last!
They have gone through the space bridge. After them!
The game just skips to us already inside the space bridge with Starscream flying in to intercept us. I am at a loss for words, dude. This has got to be one of the coolest fights in the game. The walking and driving physics are the same, but there's no floor and Starscream can fly below you. You're not floating, but you are. This fight doesn't obey any of the rules of the game, and it's amazing. I just want you guys to appreciate just how little health I had left when I finished this fight. The hype and satisfaction from moments like this, you can't oversell it. We kick Starscream back through the other side of the portal, and now we're right on the tailgate of the Decepticons. Blitzwing steps in to take us on again, with some goons to join him this time, so this fight is a lot harder than the first time we fought him. We switch back over to Prime for it because our individual attacks just feel like they're dealing chip damage as Bumblebee occasionally, so sometimes I want a character with a bit more punch, and that can really come in handy in this fight. Top priority should be taking out these shield guys first. If they are too close to another enemy you're trying to hit and your physical attack so much as grazes their shield, it will bounce off completely and leave you totally vulnerable. The fact that the goons backing up Blitzwing can drop health pickups though when killed is a blessing.
Keep trying.
Welcome to Cybertron.
My favorite boss fight from the game was Shockwave. Shockwave was a very dynamic boss fight to where he's coming at you from all these different angles with different attacks that are not just, oh, here's a straightforward attack that is going to hit right here, or it's not just instant kill. It's multiple different attacks from multiple different angles that give you ample time to plan how to dodge, but you also have to react in the moment because while he's got these preset attacks coming from different directions, he's also attacking you, and he's got a couple of cronies with him as well. And again, the music, from what I remember, that's the one that sticks out to me the most.
The Shockwave fight is extremely dynamic. He can teleport around, send out little energy discs that act as mirrors and bounce his lasers around the arena. He can create clones of himself. It's a lot to keep track of, and it's definitely the most different fight from all the others. After 2 deaths, I needed to take a rest for my hands for a second, and I started crafting some tech on the Ark. We have to do a little mini game and spend all those credits we've been accumulating, so we might be able to boost our stats ever so slightly and have a better chance against Shockwave. I deploy Bumblebee again and give it another try. Bullshit! Bullshit! Surprisingly, on this same attempt that we nearly got killed by that cheap shot, we managed to take him down. The upgraded sniper rifle proving to be the best ranged weapon we've used so far.
You failed to stop me again, Autobot.
Do you bad guys ever realize how insane your plans are?
It was Nova Prime himself who recognized the need to cyberform populated worlds.
Decepticon lies.
Once the cyberforming starts, I don't know how we can stop it.
We can't just give up.
That thought never occurred to me, Bumblebee.
Soundwave, bring the plasma core online. Constructicons, is the Ferrotaxis fully operational?
Operational and already doing its work.
Excellent. In less than 1 Earth day, there will be no more Earth days. The plasma core is in overdrive, and it's powering the Insecticons. We've got to find a way to shut it down. Too late! The core rupture is distorting it. Shoddy Constructicon repair has failed. The leak is causing a gravitational anomaly that's sucking us in.
The plasma core is going critical, so we have to haul ass to escape. Now our only chance at saving Earth is to find Megatron, who is in possession of the Ferrotaxis, and destroy it. Very cool level traversing through the Cybertronian facility. Everything seems like it's made up of these hexagonal columns that rise and fall. The neon blue and orange is definitely giving me Tron vibes. We fight some more Insecticons and do some platforming until we arrive at an elevator. Soundwave security systems are in complete control of this facility, so he disables the elevator during our approach. The rest of the Autobots join you as AI companions here again, and Wheeljack begins repairing the elevator. The first wave of enemies is pretty easy to deal with, the Heavy being the priority since he can deal a lot of damage to Wheeljack. The second wave includes a bunch of Insecticons, which you can cluster bomb right as they spawn for some decent damage. The annoying thing about this wave is that there are these elite seekers with shields that are perched on these platforms, meaning there's no way to get a rush attack on these guys and break their shield. The first one died to Prime's ultimate, but without that, I have absolutely no idea how to damage this guy. None of my attacks work. I genuinely had to, I shit you not, get him to face towards me so my AI-controlled allies could shoot him in the back for chip damage until he died. And this took an eternity to accomplish. It's clearly not the intended way of dealing with him. During the next few waves, he sends the claw enemies down at you, but other than dealing with them, the objective is still the same old: defeat all of the enemies here. Once we get the elevator moving again, it's time for payback for that sequence earlier in the Proud Star against the Insecticon boss. I swear, it's like each chapter is even more intense and high stakes than the last, and it really reflects in the music. Next is a surprisingly hard fight against Soundwave's Sentry Bot. What makes this fight annoying is how it removes parts of the floor, and most of the damage you'll end up taking is by ring out, if you can call it that in this game. Luckily, it's a very soft target, so explosive weapons make short work of it.
Me don't like this place. Something smells funny.
I agree, old friend. I can sense it. A darkness. I can feel Nova Prime. The goodness within him. The nobility of his mission. To cyberform uninhabited worlds. To bring life to the galaxy. But something went wrong. A darkness fell over him. Burrowed into him. Something corrupted him. Driving him mad. He did come here to destroy Earth, but only after encountering some singular entity. Something bent not just on destruction, but our destruction. And Nova Prime sent it in our direction. It's out there now, searching and destroying its way to Cybertron.
Nova Prime? One of our own? Really went bad on us?
It appears so. Teletran 1, find us a way to the control room.
This cargo lift can be used to reach the control room. I do not have enough access to tell you how to operate the platform, however.
That should do it.
Operation Obliteration.
We knew this was coming. Time for our final confrontation with Soundwave.
Keep trying.
Oh, get fucked, idiot. I won't say this fight is easy, but I did have an extremely clean run against him and got him on the first try. I think if you're really locked in at this point in your playthrough, you can easily counter a lot of his attacks. I used my ultimate at the right time and took out 2 of the mini-bots and a huge chunk of his health at once, which certainly helped matters.
We will arrive any moment now, and Megatron is waiting for us. Be ready for anything.
On to Chapter 7 and the penultimate level. Megatron is sending every ally he has left against us, so it's time for several encounters as we gradually fight through each type of enemy we've encountered in the game so far. This is the absolute peak of the gameplay loop. All of the mechanics fully online and the player's reflexes fully warmed up and engaged. Bumblebee has an electric sword and the sniper rifle that should be all we need to kick their metal asses. In the third encounter, Motormaster comes back to join in, and aha! Bumblebee might have been inadequate to defeat him before, but this time around your ass is mine! We get all the way up to 9 rounds of enemies before we encounter Thundercracker and Skywarp, the first time we properly fought him in this game. Saying they're identical to Starscream is probably the most unsurprising and unremarkable thing I could say about them, but go figure. The characters who are usually always the same identical toy mold behave exactly the same in-game. They're actually pretty squishy and don't really have boss-level health, which is kind of disappointing.
Welcome, Autobots! I am so glad you came to witness my ultimate victory.
Give us the Ferrotaxis, Megatron.
I'll give it to you once I'm done remaking Earth. It's gonna be beautiful, Prime. I'd love to stay and watch, but Cybertron's rebirth beckons me. And I want a front row seat for it. Constructicons! Annihilate them!
The Constructicons are the last allies that Megatron has to send up against us, and all 6 of them take us on at once. This is utter chaos. Your AI-controlled allies sort of help during this fight, but if anything they just provide something else for the enemy to target that isn't you, so you can cheap shot them in the back. It's easy to take excessive damage here purely because the otherwise telegraphed attacks are disguised by the sheer chaos of the overlapping animations. I managed to hit 3 of them at once in B's ultimate, but it doesn't really deal as much damage as I would like. Scavenger goes down first, then Mixmaster, then Hook. The real pain in the ass member of the team who I was barely able to hit during this skirmish was Bone Crusher. He spends so much time underground attacking your allies from underneath that he will most likely be the last enemy left standing when you're done with the rest of the team. But as soon as they fall, you know the drill, no pun intended. Your AI allies aren't going to be much help against Devastator considering all of his attacks have huge AoE, so they're only really good at providing additional chip damage. Alright guys, I think my work here is done. We've completely peaked. There's nothing more that can be said.
Yeah, I think you lost the plot there, buddy.
Dude, what do you want me to say to this? This is completely insane. I can't even begin to tell you a strategy for this. You basically just have to make hard reads and get lucky. I died 13 times to this, and I'm not even mad because it's just so fucking awesome. I thought it would be more sensible to continue focusing on Devastator since he's already lower on health, but the run that finally beat these two, I basically focused on whoever was attacking me, and I ended up beating Menasor first. Holy shit, what a rush.
Megatron headed for the surface, and he took the Ferrotaxis with him.
Then that is where we go. Autobots, roll out!
Our home will live again.
We will find a way to save Cybertron, but I cannot allow you to destroy Earth.
We should have been allies, you know. Imagine what we could have accomplished. But you never had the manifolds to do what needed to be done.
I have the manifolds to stand up for those who cannot stand for themselves. Give me the Ferrotaxis. We will use it to bring our culture and our history back to Cybertron, where it belongs. You have made a great discovery. Let us use it wisely.
I thought you were made of sterner stuff, Optimus.
At last, it's finally time to confront Megatron. As expected, he's hard as hell, and I wouldn't have it any other way. This is the stuff that character action games are made of. Those ultimate rival battles where your reflexes and skills are pushed to the absolute limit. The Virgil to Dante, the Jean to Bayonetta, the Sam to Raiden. He has so many crazy attacks this time around. He'll blast you with his fusion cannon, try to run you down with his tank mode, swing his Energon mace around in a furious spinning attack. The only saving grace being you can occasionally find healing items inside the nearby trees and bushes on the island if you destroy them. As we're approaching the final boss, let me just take a moment to kind of break character here. 2025 was an extremely rough year, guys. I was not doing well for most of it, and making videos is hard. If you're wondering why it took me all year to make the Darkspark video and then got this video made in 2 months, it's because life got in the way over and over again throughout the year. But not only that, I was dreading trying to find something to say about that frankly boring game. Meanwhile, this, no exaggeration, has been the most fun I've had making a video in what feels like years. Because the game is just that good. It is so goddamn fun. If you haven't played this game and you own one of the consoles it's on, do yourself a favor and track down a copy of this. I'm having such a good time working on this video that I'm sitting here on Christmas Eve putting this together as we speak. So you know what? I'm gonna give myself a little gift. And we're putting Ode to Joy in the video. I've wanted to do that for literally a decade.
Tron.
If I can't have the Ferrotaxis, no one can!
No!
Optimus! I will not let you take victory away from me!
Look, if you don't think a game this over the top was going to end in space, then I don't know what to tell you. Regardless of which character you've been playing as up until now, the game forces the final confrontation to be between Megatron and Optimus, and yeah, of course it would. This fight isn't exactly free, but it's a lot easier than the previous one, and the dialogue is really cool, so I'm just going to show it in its entirety.
Cybertron is the center of my universe. How is it not the heart of yours?
Cybertron is about all life destruction. To keep Cybertron on life support, there must be another way.
Flesh isn't life. Servos, gyros, and fuel. This is where life comes from. You're defending byproduct at best. You're jumped. It's over, Megatron!
It will not let me shut down the Insecticons! Megatron, what have you done?
One last fail-safe. In order to shut down the Ferrotaxis, you must destroy it. You hold the fate of Cybertron in your hands, Prime.
You are correct, Megatron. And I have the courage to make the right decision.
No! What have you done?
The humans will decide their own fate. Autobots, we have lived on Earth for decades, but I see now that we have not truly accepted Earth as our home, holding out some distant hope that we would return to a newly reforged Cybertron. And maybe one day that will happen. But we cannot continue to live in between worlds. From this day forward, we are no longer Cybertronians who are stranded on another world. Now, we are a part of Earth. And we must treat Earth as though we were forged here. And we must protect our home, no matter the cost.
We get a nice epilogue where the Autobots add some reinforcements for Earth, including their own combiner teams Defensor and Superion, voiced by Steve Bloom and Jameson Price respectively. Optimus alluding that he plans to become a part of his own combiner team should the need arise, which is a nice tease for the Combiner Wars toy line that was contemporary to this game. Then simply, credits roll. So, in summary, I fucking love this game. This was no exaggeration the most fun I had playing a game in the entirety of 2025. I do not say that out of some performative brand loyalty to Transformers, it was just that much fun. Is it objectively the best game I held a controller to play this year? Definitely not. I've completed or are in the process of completing some absolute bangers in a variety of genres, but no other game had me screaming at my screen in excitement during some of these hype moments and clutch victories. While character action games aren't one of my top favorite genres, I do enjoy them a lot, and the feedback and instant gratification I got from playing this was exactly what I needed when I played it. It may not be my favorite genre, and I don't expect this kind of experience from other games, but in terms of raw fun factor, I stand by what I said. There's probably an argument to be made that this is the best game in the series we've covered, and lots of people think that it is purely from a Transformers fan service standpoint. But even though I do truly love this game, gun to my head, I don't think it's my absolute favorite. I suppose if I had to make some kind of arbitrary tier list, I would put it in equal standing with Fall of Cybertron and the Armada game, but a lot of that can come down to genre preferences.
After having completed the game once and being halfway through a second playthrough, I share some sentiments with the internet, as well as CJ here. While solely from a gameplay perspective, this does effectively just feel like a family-friendly Metal Gear Rising with a pinch of Bayonetta, as a Transformers game, this is fantastic. The gameplay isn't flawless, and it isn't always the most well-balanced, but it's still fun and engaging, and the story feels right at home with the best of G1. Looking at the script from this game, it really does feel like a lost episode of the 80s cartoon. One day, a random plot MacGuffin that could destroy the planet appears out of nowhere, like in The Ultimate Doom or Countdown to Extinction, and they allude to a character being connected to a big plot event that we never follow up on, like Dr. Arkeville, Nightbird, and DevCon, along with big epic battles that are quite the spectacle and sometimes really do feel like kids playing with toys, but it works. While I fully believe that the game's story was written with a follow-up in mind, the fact that we have such a janky and unresolved plot beat makes it feel even more like it belongs in the 80s cartoon. While the game on the whole isn't perfect, I think it's an absolute crime that it was delisted from digital storefronts and there never was a follow-up. I'm hoping against hope that maybe one day we'll get a Devastation 2. Who knows? If Mega Man can have 2 major titles releasing in the next 2 years, then maybe Transformers isn't too far gone either.
So what happened next for Transformers video games? Well, in 2020, we got the first game after the Hasbro Activision licensing agreement expired, called Transformers Battlegrounds, and it's the only game been released since that you can actually go out and purchase a physical copy of. It's based in the Cyberverse continuity, and it's more of a strategy game that appears to be made for kids on a really small budget. It doesn't seem like it was particularly popular with the fan base, although I'd be interested in trying it. Although, it too is scheduled to be delisted from online stores at the time of recording this month. Then in 2022, something incredible happened. We got a brand new announcement for a brand new Transformers game, the likes of which we had never seen before. A third-person multiplayer shooter, a spiritual successor to War for Cybertron. This game looked very promising. The Transformers video game brand had been reactivated. Then it was just years of silence, no new announcements or news about the game whatsoever, until January 2025 when it was announced that development on the game had stopped. The game had been canceled, Transformers Reactivate would never see the light of day. I started this retrospective over 3 years ago now. At that time, it was just an excuse to talk about a franchise I'm very passionate about that I didn't really have a good outlet to express my passion for. I don't know many other Transformers fans, especially ones that I live close to. But it was also an opportunity to talk about games preservation and what a shame it is that in spite of the excellent quality of War for Cybertron, Fall of Cybertron, and Devastation, it was no longer possible to purchase them anymore. Little did I know how much worse the situation around the games industry would get in those short few years. A sizable portion of my most ambitious video was dedicated to discussing the industry's decline and the issues preservation faces. But nothing could have prepared me for the mix of emotions I felt when shortly after publishing that video and the news of Reactivation's cancellation hit. Ideally, I enjoy when my videos are about pretentious sociocultural commentary, but at the end of the day, if there is anything I want you guys to take away from this video series, is that it's a love letter to Transformers. I've said it before in previous videos in the series, but Transformers was always a comfort franchise for me. A franchise I enjoyed privately rather than socially. Not many of my friends or family shared the interest. It was my own little world I could retreat into when I felt the desire to simplify life, when things had gotten too complex. I'm sure a lot of other Transformers fans can relate to this. When life got hard, these silly little toy robots were always there. It's really important to have escapism. Everyone needs an outlet to escape the stress and horrors of everyday life in our current society. But I can't help but feel a twinge of disillusionment with my nostalgia for Transformers. Reactivate's cancellation doesn't feel like an isolated incident. Transformers 1 is one of, if not the greatest film about the Transformers IP. One of the best pieces of Transformers media we've had in many years, and yet it barely made more than its budget back at the box office. I hear people blame the marketing on this film's failure until the cows come home, but I can't help but shake this feeling that Transformers, like many other older franchises, is just not popular with kids anymore. Our pop culture is in a really weird place right now. It seems like there's a divide where half of our media is nostalgia pandering stuff from the 80s, and the other half is new wave media liked exclusively by Gen Z and younger. I'm generalizing a lot here, but kids don't really play with action figures anymore. It's all iPads, Fortnite, and Minecraft. Transformers as a brand has adapted to these changes. Kids aren't the target audience for Transformers anymore. It's all people my age and older. The toys don't feature things like spring-loaded missiles and lights and sounds anymore. Selling points for Transformers are now things that adult collectors care about, like articulation, parts engineering, and literally, what type of plastic it's made out of. And don't get me wrong, I love being a part of this community. I love collecting these dumb toy robots, and I enjoy the way they're designed these days. But I'm also extremely weary and tired of nostalgia becoming commodified and sold back to me. Our nostalgia is how corporate greed exploits us. If Transformers and Star Wars and Magic the Gathering and Lego sets are no longer the market of children, instead of 30-year-olds with deep pockets, then any price will do. Double, triple the price of what they used to be. Just blame it on inflation. It seems ironically fitting that these games have the legacy they do now. Niche, obscure, maintained by a small dedicated group of die-hard fans. Much like the Transformers brand itself. You can largely excuse my cynicism here as just venting. At the end of the day, the failure of Transformers 1 is a reminder that making good art and making a profitable product are often a contradictory set of incentives, which is something I'm sure the developers of Reactivate feel all too well, as they supposedly spent a total of 7 years working on the game and walk away with nothing to show for it. I don't mean to be so negative. I opened this retrospective with a rant about how Transformers has always been in some way mediocre, and it's a franchise with extremely loyal hyperfans that can be very hard to please. But, in all honesty, Transformers has been perfect for exactly these reasons. It's at its best when it's dumb and goofy, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
I've really enjoyed watching this whole retrospective from start to finish, and have watched and listened to every video multiple times. I especially loved all the cheeky song lyric references during the Fall of Cybertron video, and thank my lucky stars that I bought War and Fall for Steam before they got delisted, even if they are a little janky on Steam Deck. I've also had a great time being along for the ride outside of the video retrospectives, where over the course of this whole project, we've kicked ideas back and forth, grown our own Transformers collections and shared progress with each other, and had hours-long discussions about different works, including marathoning the Bayverse films and discussing how they stack up to the 1986 movie and the recent Transformers 1. I'm honored to have been a part of this journey, and I can't wait to see what you have in store for the future. I'm foaming at the mouth for the eventual Dynasty Warriors Gundam episode of the Muso retrospective.
As I struggle with getting older, generations' interests changing, the commodification of my nostalgia, increasing alienation with social media platforms and the impact of corporate capitalism on my life, I remind myself, and I remind all of you as well, with how chaotic and scary and straight up messed up the world is right now, you all need community now more than ever. If your commonality is dumb toy robots from the 80s, you're all a family, and family takes care of each other. So from the bottom of my heart, to all these several thousands of Transformers fans who've watched this series and stuck along for the ride with me, thank you.
Rage